Hey guys, Lunar Complex here, and this is something I put together surprisingly quickly. I thought this would be a little bit more difficult to do, but it turns out it actually wasn't. This is basically going to be a kind of redo or remake of I think my first video. I made a clock, a clock on the screen. And so let me just play this. It'd be the easiest thing to do. So if we hit new game, we start the game, and we go over here, we click this little orb thing, boom, we have a clock on the screen, and you can go over there and do whatever. It's clock. It's pretty cool. So we have seconds, we have minutes, and then we have hours, and you could put whatever you want. You could put milliseconds, you could put frame counters, you could put lots of stuff, but I just went very basic here and just did seconds, minutes, and hours. So these will keep counting until they go to 59, and once they reach 59, 1 will be right here, and then 0, well, this will just turn into 0. I'll just wait until it happens. Alright guys, here it is. Are you ready? Are you ready? Look at it. Boom! Look at that. It has been 1 minute and 5 seconds. Oh, and if I hit escape, it pauses it. I'm not exactly sure if there's a way to kind of run variables, because this is just a counting variable. I'm not sure if there's a way to run variables outside of these menus. I'm sure there is a way, and you would just apply to the variables that are adding together. Because if I go ahead and turn the display off, it was left at 1 minute and 11 seconds. If I go ahead and turn it back on, it's still counting in the background. And I wonder if I turn it off multiple times, does it do anything? Nope, doesn't seem like it breaks anything. Okay, cool. I didn't really try and break this because it's just so simple. I don't think anything would really happen. I think if you talk to someone, it would probably freeze like a menu. I'm not sure. You guys would have to experiment with that. Usually in games with time, when you talk to people, time does freeze because you can't talk to someone who's on a path. Based on what time it is, they're on a certain path, like in Majora's Mask or other games like that. So I imagine you guys would probably want to just freeze time if any action is happening. But yes, it is a really cool looking, well, I say cool, but I used one of my favorite texts online. And yeah, so I will show you guys how to make this. Alright, so the first thing you're going to need are some resources, and I use one of my favorite sites here. So if you just go to cooltext.com, you'll come to here. And if you search for Batman, you click Batman. These ones, I just love the style of this. So I chose skate, and then I chose, I don't know, like 30 font size, and then 1, 2. You can just drag these over to your desktop or something like that. And I did also include AM and PM. I'll just show you guys the folder. So if we open up our game folder when you make a new project, and you go to images and then pictures, I have all the pictures that you really need here. We have the colon, the AM, the PM, even though if you're on military time, you don't really need this, but in case you wanted to do AM and PM, I can make an updated version of this video, but I think it wouldn't be too difficult to do. You would basically stop hours at 11 instead of 23, and then have another variable keeping track of AM and PM, and then just switch those depending on if it's already switched. So honestly, you could just use a switch. And I did, if you do copy over this 1, it is a smaller size, so I did make sure that it is centered, and it is the same size as 52 by 46, as well as all of these 52 by 46. And then the colon, I just made sure it matched the height of 46, and then just all of these are pretty much the same x coordinate. Alright, so in our game file, what you're going to want to do is at the beginning of all of my, seems like videos, at all of my video games, I have this little event here, and what this does is it runs once and only once. And what it does is basically turns on my game's main loop common event page. Then it turns its self switch on, and that goes to this page with self switch A on, and then it runs this and stops. It's basically killing itself and never running again. And make sure on the first page it is set to parallel, although auto run will work, but I like things mainly on parallel because I'm not sure if auto run kind of takes priority over some other things, so I just want to make sure this runs. Even though when I make a game, this is going to be the only event on the map, because there's like a blank black map, and then it loads the game, at least the way I develop games. But yeah, but you're basically just going to turn this switch called main loop on and then turn its self switch A on, and that's basically it. Now, with these two switches, if you interact with this switch, make sure it's set as same as character so you can interact with it, and triggers action button, so when your character performs an action with it or hits enter while it's facing it, or if you click on it, go ahead and turn control switch display clock on. So I believe these are the only two switches I'm using, so main loop and display clock. And those are basically switches that run common events. And then with our red little obelisk thing over here, same as character, action button, display clock, turn off. So just turn off the switch. And that basically covers the overworld. Now let's get into the database. Let's first go over main loop. Alright, so in my first video, I kind of had a setup similar to this right here, where we basically have some variables here. We have seconds, minutes, hours, and frames. I'll get to these guys later. And the reason why I had to actually count frames is because in RPG Maker, if you run your game and you hit F2, you can see the frames here, which is really neat because it's just very nice to see your frames there. And as you can see, they run at 59, close to 60, sometimes 58. So I'd say it's a good average around 59 every second. So FPS, frames per second, 59. Which means, if I'm correct, every time I add 1 to a variable, it's on every frame. So 59 FPS is 59 frames per second, which means frames are kind of like they're seconds of seconds, basically. So 60 frames, I'm going to go ahead and say is 1 second, and then we're just going to do the same thing over. So we count frames. When they're above 59, we're going to go ahead and set them to 0, and then add 1 to seconds. Same as before with frames. Once seconds gets to above 59, we're going to reset it to 0, add 1 to minutes. When minutes are above 59, make it 0, add 1 to hours. And now with hours, there are 24 hours in a day. We start with 0. You never see the clock actually show 24 on it because 24 is basically 0. However, we do see 12, but 12 and 0 basically the same thing. Basically, you never see seconds and minutes at an actual 60, so that is why you set hours to 23. And then when hours is above 23, go ahead and reset hours to 0. And now then at the very end here, we have a small if statement here that basically erases pictures here. You're going to use 8 pictures. I'm just simply using 1 through 8 because this is a new file. And yeah, I should probably go over the general settings of this common event. So this common event's main loop, the trigger's parallel, and the switch's main loop. It's pretty self-explanatory. Our second common event, which is pretty lengthy, and it actually does take a little bit to load. So if I click database with that left on there, it actually lags a bit. But it still runs 59 FPS, which is pretty nice because I believe this all compiles into some sort of just quick text and not actually running in here. That would be just horrible. But anyway, this is a common event, display clock, its triggers parallel, and it is switched on with display clock. Basically the same as main loop. And now let me get back to those other variables I did not cover yet. So we have a seconds ones place and a seconds tens place. These are basically variables handling what number is in the ones place and the tens place of seconds, minutes, and hours. So you know when it is 12 o'clock, the hours tens place of 12 o'clock is 1, and the hours ones place of 12 o'clock is 2. I hope I said that correctly. But basically, everything here, this section here with 2 giant if statements, everything before this comment, handles displaying seconds on the screen. And then after this comment, so right here to the next comment here, handles the minutes, and then everything else here handles the hours. It's basically 2 giant if statements, and before the if statements, some setting up. But basically what we're doing is we are setting seconds ones place to seconds. So that means if it's 23 seconds right now, seconds ones place is 23. It's not technically 3 yet. That is why we use this neat little operation here called mod. What this basically does is it gives us a remainder after we divide. It is a very useful function for any sort of programming needs. And basically we're going to mod it by 10. So now seconds ones place actually has 3 in it if seconds was 23. Likewise, we're going to set seconds tens place to seconds again. So 23. Then we're going to divide by 10. So basically move the 23 to 2, 3. Then we're going to mod that again, and we're going to get 2 instead of 3 this time. So if you wanted to somehow get a hundredths place of a number, you would just divide by 100 and then mod by 10. Or divide by 10, divide by 10, mod by 10. I believe that's how that works. Alright, so let's get into our first if statement of the two. Every other section after this kind of runs basically the same way as this. I just copy paste and change some values. What we're going to do is in the first if statement, and all of these have else's in them. Although I'm not sure... No, yeah, you should probably have some else's. So the first if statement here, we're going to check if seconds 1's place is equal to 0. And if so, we're going to set picture 1 to the image 0. Right here. So if seconds is 0 in the 1's place, go ahead and show the picture 0. And then we want to show it at this placement on the screen. And you might actually want to make some extra variables and use it with variables here, because if I want to move everything over by 1 pixel, I have to go in every single one of these picture things here, all the purple stuff, and actually move those over and retype, you know, 700 to like 701 if I wanted to. So if you are doing this, I would highly recommend either just get a plugin that does this. You can Google RPG Maker MV on-screen clock. There's some that actually show values or variables to the screen, but this is if you kind of wanted to do it your own, and this is how I honestly think I would probably do it. So what I did is just since this is the this is the 1's place to seconds, which means it's going to be on the furthest right of the screen or furthest right of everything we're displaying. Go ahead and find a destination that isn't off the screen. So I just chose 700, and 12 is 12 pixels from the very top, because Y goes positive when it goes down. In our else of this first if statement, so make sure you have create else branch, we have basically the same thing, but we're checking if seconds 1's place is 1. And if so, we're going to set picture 1, because this is the picture 1 is basically going to be the field that takes in the seconds 1's place number and displays whatever that is. Show this image 1 in picture 1 and show it at this coordinate. And basically the coordinate's going to be the same for all of the seconds 1's place, because they shouldn't move. You're always going to show it there. And in this else statement, we're going to do what we did before and check if it's 2, then check if it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then that's where it stops. And then all of these end just accordingly. And now the next if statement, separate from the other one, just right under it, we're going to do the same sort of thing, but check for seconds 10's place. So we check if seconds 10's place. I literally copied that whole if statement and put it here and deleted some that we didn't need. But check if 10's place is 0. If so, we're going to use picture 2 for the placeholder for the seconds 10's places. In picture 2, show image 0, because we can use multiple images, that's fine, we just can't do multiple images in one picture slot. But what we're going to do differently here is change and offset the coordinate. We're going to offset it by 30, at least with the picture files that I downloaded and their sizes. 30 was a pretty good number to pick by. I just kind of guessed, and then it looked good, and then I picked it. So basically when the numbers are next to each other, the 1's and the 10's, it's going to be about 30 off if you use the same sort of sizes that I did. And these pictures, you may be thinking these pictures are like 50 across or something like that. They're way more than 30, but a lot of it's just transparency, so it just overlaps itself anyway. And then in this else, we're going to go ahead and make another if statement to check if seconds 10's place is equal to 1, and if so, set picture 2 to the 1 image and set that to the same coordinate as you would send the other one when it's 0. And then basically check if seconds 10's place is 2, 3, 4, and then stop at 5, because in the seconds 10's place, you're never going to actually show a 6, 7, 8, or 9, because it doesn't really make any sense. 60 seconds is a minute, so you're going to set seconds to just 0, but then show 1 for a minute. And that's kind of why at 59, we check above that, and then reset it to 0 once it hits 60, so it doesn't show 60. Alright, and then after that if statement, we're basically done. We just need to do that, and then add a little bit of extra more, so like the colons, but we just need to copy everything up here. So like from these 5 operations or control variable to just the 2 if statements is really it, and then paste that, and then just add this colon picture so that it shows up nicely and formatted. And then I set this offset of I think 15, so 670, and then since we're going right to left, we're just going to have to keep subtracting to the x, and I subtract 15, but then I subtract 35 from to the next number that is to the left of the colon. But anyway, we're going to basically store the colon in picture 3, and it's never going to go away. You can make it blank if you want. You would just put in an if statement here, like control branch, if variable seconds is above, we'll go below first, is less than 30. Then we can go ahead and show it, else we can erase it, and then it should toggle every half second between, well, every 30 seconds actually. You should probably set the seconds here to maybe frames, because then 30 frames will be half a second. Yeah, that makes more sense. It will just flip the picture, or show the picture, then not show the picture. And I just actually deleted the pictures. Alright, and then we're going to do what we basically did before, except with a little bit of offset, and we're going to change the values. So instead of seconds ones place equals seconds, it's minutes ones place equals minutes. And then we're going to go ahead and mod that minutes ones place variable by 10, which will give us the number in the minutes ones place. Do the same sort of mechanic to the tens place of minutes, and it gives us whatever number that is. Now what we're going to do is utilizing picture 4 for the minutes ones place, because for picture 1 we used seconds ones place, and then for picture 2 we used seconds tens place, and then picture 3 is the colon in between, or next, and then picture 4 is going to be the next number there, which is minutes ones place. We're going to check if it's 0. If it is in picture 4 at this coordinate 620 and 12, go ahead and show 0, or this image that I named it 0, so it's a little bit more clear. Else we're going to go ahead and do the same sort of thing, but check if minutes ones place is 1, and in picture 4 show the image for 1, and at the same coordinate as the minutes, all the minutes ones places, so that they're all aligned with each other. And then go ahead and check that up until 9, because in the minutes ones place you will have up to 9, so you have to check for that. And then after all that, we're going to check the minutes tens place in the same exact manner, just using picture 5 and having a different offset of 30, I believe, in between each two. Yeah, so 620 minus 30 is 590. And then we only need to check up to 5, because like seconds, minutes only go up to 59 minutes, and then you go to 0 and then increase the hour by 1. After our checking for minutes tens place if statement, we basically have another comment here, and we're going to show another colon in picture 6, but making sure it's 15 from the top one here, but then 35 from the next number. So to the left of the colon is going to be 35 offset, at least with my numbers, and to the right of the colon is going to be 15 offset. But basically we're going to show another colon because it's how it's times formatted, and we're going to start the whole thing over again, but for hours. And then you would just go accordingly with some offsets here, utilizing different pictures here, changing to the appropriate variables. But for hours tens place, you only need to go up to 2. There's no reason to have 30 because you stop at 23. Once it hits 24, you can show 24, but as long as you don't want to show 0 after. So like how minutes goes from 59 to 0, hours has to go from 23 to 0. And then that's basically it. There's really nothing. That's the last if statement series there, and yeah, you just got to make sure that when you, since this main loop is going to keep running forever, that when you turn display clock off, it does erase all 8 pictures. Now I am going to very quickly see if this actually does work. I'm going to put an if statement here, or a conditional branch, variable frames. I'm going to go ahead and type in 30. So it goes from 0 to 29 as the first 30 numbers, if frames is less than 30. Alright, going to copy this in there, and then whatever is in the else has to be erasing that picture. So if we go to erase picture, what was this, 4? No, it was 3. 3. That should work. I'm going to go ahead and copy that. Move down to the next one here. Paste that in there. Go ahead and copy that. Delete that one. Paste that. Edit this to 6. And presto, we should have the colons doing its little thing. Going to go ahead and full screen with F4 and show the FPS with F2. And there we go. That's a pretty good clock. I like how the zeros actually are very lined up and everything. That's very nice. It didn't take me that long at all to actually program that. I thought it was going to be horrible, like a complete mess. But look at that. A nice little clock there. Yeah. So it's not the best clock, but it does its job. It keeps track of time. And if you guys are so curious, I did see how fast or well this handles up. So I'm going to go ahead and set these numbers to basically run through this very quickly just to see how it handles, you know, just experimenting a bit. And let's go ahead and check it out. Look at that go. So at 23 it should just go back to 0, and it does, so it works completely fine. And I did leave room here, although I'm sure your video game screen dimensions are completely different, but I was planning to put AM and PM there, but there's really no point. I mean, I could, but 24 hours. I know at least in Japan it's a lot more acceptable to have a military time there than actual whatever you would call non-military time. I don't know. But yeah, there's a nice little clock there, and it's going pretty fast, and it works pretty well. So, and then we just turn it off, and we could turn it on with the on one, not the off one. Hit escape, see where it pauses at. Oh, right at 20. That's cool. But yeah, guys, that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope this recorded well. I'm not sure what's with RPG Maker MV, but every time I try and do editing on this work field edit screen, whatever the program, the kit, it decides to like glitch out, and I know my last video it did that a bit. I'm not sure why it does that. Probably just the way it's programmed, maybe. I mean, obviously, but you know, something more to it. But yeah, that's it for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.